This isn't a war fought with bullets. It's a war fought with microchips, satellites, and algorithms. The United States and China are locked in one of the greatest rivalries in modern history. A war not for land or ideology, but for technological dominance. Whoever wins this battle will control the future. It began quietly, not with missiles, but with code. In the 1990s, the US was the undisputed king of technology. Silicon Valley was booming. Apple, Microsoft, Google, all born from American soil. The internet revolution had one flag on it, the Stars and Stripes. Meanwhile, across the Pacific, China was rebuilding. Factories, cities, and universities were rising from decades of economic reform. But one thing was clear. To catch up with the West, China didn't just need labor, it needed innovation. And by the 2000s, it had a plan. In 2015, Beijing announced a national strategy called Made in China 2025. Its goal was simple: to make China self-sufficient in 10 key industries: AI, robotics, aerospace, semiconductors, biotechnology, and more. But there was one crucial difference. While the US relied on private companies to innovate, China's government took direct control. Billions were poured into research and development. Entire cities were transformed into tech hubs. Young engineers were trained and sent abroad. And within a decade, the results were undeniable. Huawei led the world in 5G, DJI-dominated drones. TikTok conquered social media. And Chinese universities began producing more STEM graduates than any nation on Earth. The sleeping giant was awake. But there's one technology that defines modern power: the semiconductor. The tiny microchip that powers everything, from your phone to fighter jets. For decades, the US and its allies controlled the global chip supply chain. American firms designed the chips. Taiwan manufactured them. And Dutch and Japanese companies built the machines that made them possible. China, it was a customer, not a creator. But in the 2010s, that started to change. China invested over $150 billion to build its own chip industry. It wanted independence and leverage. And that scared Washington. In 2018, US President Donald Trump struck back. Tariffs were just the beginning. American tech exports were suddenly restricted. Chinese companies like Huawei and ZTE were blacklisted, and US firms were banned from selling them advanced chips. It was the first salvo in the tech Cold War. Huawei's smartphone business was crippled overnight. China's chip industry stumbled. But instead of backing down, Beijing doubled down. It began stockpiling resources. It accelerated domestic production, and it realized something profound. If the US could weaponize technology, so could China. While the West debated privacy laws, China was perfecting surveillance. It built the most extensive facial recognition network in history. Millions of cameras across every major city, linked to artificial intelligence systems that could track individuals in real time. To Western eyes, it looked dystopian, but to China, it was efficient governance, a model of control. The same algorithms that analyze citizens' behavior were soon applied to traffic systems, logistics, and even social credit. Technology wasn't just innovation, it was power. And the US realized it was losing influence in the world's fastest-growing markets. Artificial intelligence changed everything. In the early 2000s, Silicon Valley led the charge. Google's DeepMind, OpenAI, and Tesla's self-driving tech were unmatched. But China had something America didn't: data. 1.4 billion citizens, millions of cameras, countless social interactions, the raw material of AI. While the US was slowed by privacy concerns and corporate competition, China's unified system allowed data collection on a massive scale. In 2017, President Xi Jinping declared, by 2030, China will lead the world in artificial intelligence. And he wasn't bluffing. Chinese AI startups exploded. Facial recognition, drone swarms, language models, all rapidly advancing. In some sectors, they began outperforming the West. This wasn't just innovation, it was acceleration. Technology isn't confined to labs. It's shaping geopolitics. The US still dominates software, aerospace, and advanced chips. But China controls the supply chains that make them possible. rare earth metals, battery production, 5G infrastructure, all critical to modern life, and all heavily dependent on China. This created a paradox. America still leads in design. China still leads in manufacturing. Both need each other, and both are terrified of that fact. Then came the accusations. U.S. officials claimed Chinese tech companies were tools of espionage, that Huawei's equipment could secretly transmit data to Beijing. Chinese researchers were accused of intellectual property theft. Hackers from both sides began targeting universities, corporations, and defense contractors. The front lines of this war weren't in deserts or oceans. They were inside servers and fiber optic cables. And unlike traditional wars, this one could never be declared or ended. Now the next frontier looms: quantum computing. It's a technology that could make today's supercomputers look like toys. And whoever builds the first stable quantum computer could break every encryption system on Earth. The US and China are both racing for it. China has already built quantum satellites capable of secure communication beyond the reach of hackers. The US has invested billions through DARPA and IBM to catch up. This is the Manhattan Project of the 21st century. And both sides know the winner could control everything from finance to warfare. The rivalry isn't limited to Earth. China has its own space station, it's landed rovers on the Moon and Mars, and it's planning a permanent lunar base within the next decade. Meanwhile, NASA and SpaceX are leading the American charge, building next-generation rockets and exploring Mars colonization. But this isn't just exploration, it's strategy. Satellites mean communication, navigation, and missile targeting. Space is the new high ground, and both nations are fighting for control of it. The world is splitting in two. Western nations align with US systems, Google, Microsoft, Intel. Developing nations increasingly adopt Chinese systems, Huawei, Tencent, and BYD. The digital world is becoming bipolar. Two internets, two ecosystems, two philosophies. America's, based on freedom, innovation, and private enterprise. China's, based on unity, control, and collective advancement. Both believe they're building the future. Only one can define it. Behind the technology are people. In Silicon Valley, young engineers sleep under desks, chasing the next algorithm that might make billions. In Shenzhen, workers assemble devices in 12-hour shifts, the tools that power the world. Both sides are trapped in the same cycle, a race for progress that never ends. And while the US and China compete, the planet watches, reliant on both, afraid of both. So who's winning? That depends on how you measure victory. The US still leads in chip design software and research. China dominates infrastructure, AI data, and manufacturing scale. But the truth is, neither side can truly win alone. Technology is now global, and every breakthrough echoes across borders. Quantum computing, artificial intelligence, biotechnology, they all promise unimaginable potential, but they also carry unimaginable risks. Weapons that can think, machines that can decide, and systems that can collapse civilizations in seconds. The next war might not be fought with soldiers, but with code. The US sees China's rise as a threat. China sees America's dominance as a cage. Neither can back down. Both believe they're defending their destiny. Every new invention, every satellite, chip, and AI model brings them closer to collision, not in the traditional sense, but in influence, ideology, and reach. The technology war isn't coming, it's already here. And the rest of the world, we're all caught in the middle. The Cold War of the 20th century was fought with nukes. The Cold War of the 21st is fought with information. Every phone call, every drone, every piece of code is a weapon. The front line is invisible, but it's everywhere. The question isn't who will win, it's what kind of world they'll create when they do. Because whoever controls technology controls the truth. In the end, the war for technology isn't about power, it's about the future of humanity itself. Subscribe to Mr. Factflix, where the future meets history.